chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You can hear with some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Good afternoon and hello to our global family. Welcome to another episode of Sabrina Speaks. Mic check, we're good. Yes, the voices of the islands, conversations for the world, the podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. I'm your host, Sabrina. It's good to be back with you on this Wednesday, and guess what? Yesterday's conversation opened a door to, as usual, such a powerful dialogue on immigration reform, rights, and the responsibilities that shapes Cayman's identity. If you missed it, we pretty much explored how policy impacts not just residency, but freedoms, protections, and even our cultural foundations that defined our islands. And this evening, we will continue that dialogue because we didn't even get to finish exactly what I wanted to cover. So this evening, we're going to actually continue with that. There was a question that was posed as well. I'm going to answer that because of where the conversation went, which was I appreciate it. And the feedback again that I got, everyone did. But tonight we continue with the dialogue with even sharper focus. And because we're going back down from clauses 9 through 15. And we're going to be examining what they mean for rights, residency, accountability, and the preservation of Caymanian identity. Now, when you look at immigration and you hear the conversations around it, it's definitely making its rounds. Trust me, it's making its rounds. And it's more than paperwork. It's about protecting our foundation, respecting our culture, and definitely ensuring those that are in power are upholding their responsibilities. That came out of the discussions yesterday. But yes, the content you're about to hear, including any discussions or opinions from myself, guests, and or participants, is intended solely for general informational and entertainment purposes. It's not a substitute for professional legal, medical, or financial advice. And I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional for specific concerns. Bridge Media disclaims all of its affiliates disclaims all liability for any decisions or actions taken in reliance on the information presented. And please, guys, don't forget to follow. Go on Facebook. If you're streaming me right now on Facebook, go on Facebook, look for Sabrina Turner, community activist, and follow, like it, so you don't miss an episode. I'm actually on all of the CMR platforms as well, cmrtv.com. But you realize what happened yesterday, right? The conversation was that good that it continued. And because there are other programming schedule, which I'm really going to do my best in having a hard stop at 7 out of respect for, like I said, others. But they're just sometimes we're going to go over a little bit. If you're not following Sabrina Turner, you're going to not be able to continue in the conversation because then you're going to have to search for me. So I want you to go and look for Sabrina Turner, community activist, and definitely follow, like it, so that all of my postings will be there, and also on YouTube. Yeah, look for Sabrina Speaks, at Sabrina Speaks, the number 12. We're also got a YouTube handle there as well. So, at the end of the day, we see the new followers and we thank you so much. 345-936-8255 is the number to call in, or WhatsApp me on should you want to be a part of this continued discussion. I know probably the image may have played tricks on you today because it was a same poster from yesterday, but yeah, because we got to continue. We got to continue with the conversation. But as we do it here, moderate winds along with slight to moderate seas are expected from tonight as a high pressure gradient over the northwest Caribbean begins to tighten in association with a building high pressure system over the southern United States. There is a low chance for showers tonight, as both mid and upper levels remain relatively dry. Now, the forecast for tonight calls for partly cloudy skies with 20% chance of showers. Temperatures will fall near the mid to upper 70s. Winds will be east to northeast, 10 to 15 knots. Seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. Tomorrow's forecast calls for partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers. Temperatures will rise to the mid to upper 80s with a heat index of near to 94 degrees. Winds will be east to northeast, 10 to 50 knots, and seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. Now, the tides call for a high tide at 7:43 later this evening. Tomorrow, a low tide is for 2:31 in the morning and a high tide at 9:29 a.m. There'll be another low at 3:33 tomorrow afternoon. And yes, at 8:32 tomorrow night as well. Sunset this evening will be at 5:45 and sunrise will be at 6:45 tomorrow morning. Now, the outlook is for similar weather conditions through Friday evening. There you have it for all of you who are wanting to know what's going on. It's good to have all of you here. And today was a busy day. If you can check my social media handles, and I'm going to so happy to we're going to send happy birthday greetings definitely out to a number of people who are celebrating their big birthday today. And we got Dr. Elsa Cummings, who is celebrating her birthday today. We know Dr. Elsa from the college up there in Newlands, and for all of her contributions. We want to say happy birthday to you today. You're still as feisty as ever. Thank you for your contributions as well to tertiary education, and you continue to be an integral part of that institution. Again, may you have many, many, many more birthdays and keep as feisty as you are. I know you got that spirit. I know you got that drive. Hope April is spoiling you today. April Cummings, that's April Cummings' mama. Yeah. So, Dr. Elsa Cummings, I'm wishing you all the best and many, many, many more birthdays to come. Also sharing this day with Dr. Cummings is our very own Major Halston Farley. Happy birthday to you, Mr. Farley. I'm hoping that you're having a blast. Everyone would know him from the Cayman Islands Cadet, and oh gosh, I think he was a teacher as well, and also part of the uniformed service, Royal Cayman Islands Police Service back in the day. And he's celebrating his birthday today as well, making his mark and definitely getting all involved with the Cayman cadets, guiding our future generation and doing it with passion, dedication. Let me tell you something. I've had the honor and privilege of working with this gentleman as the minister. And let me tell you, he has a team over there. But today's his day. I believe in giving people their flowers, just like what I did with Dr. Elsa Cummings, when they can appreciate it. And today's your day. You're the man of the hour, your man of the day. It's your time. It's your season. Celebrate it. Live life. And just give thanks. Wishing you many, many, many more birthdays and hoping you're having a blast. Yeah. Look who's sharing today as well with the two phenomenal people. Our very own Kevin Dawkins, Mr. GQ himself. Hey, Kevin. Hope that you're having a blast as well. I'm quite sure you're throwing it down somewhere. If you're here, you're probably gonna be just like you're always doing something. And if you're not here, I know you're gonna party hard. But Kevin, it was a pleasure working with you. I know you're a big fan of the pageantry. And I've had the honor as well of working with you back in the day in immigration. Kudos to you. We got a little secret name. He has a secret name for me, and we were going to leave that just there, Kevin. But I'm wishing you a very Merry Christmas, a happy birthday today to you as well. Definitely always a man of fashion. I've never seen Kevin where he looked like, oh my God, where he come out from. Never ever have I seen Kevin like that. Good for you. But I'm so happy to wish all three of you amazing people today. From all of us here on the Sabrina Speaks, we want to send our warmest birthday wishes to all three of these incredible individuals. That's Dr. Elsa Cummings here for those of you, because I see you all joining in little bit by little. You're trickling in. Birthday wishes to Dr. Elsa Cummings, Major Halston Farley, the man with the plan, and Mr. GQ, Kevin Dawkins. May your special day, guys, be filled with lots of joy, love, and blessings beyond measure as we celebrate not only your birthdays, but each of you in your own individual capacities, the impact that you've made in our community. And, we're just here's to health, happiness, and many more years of success and fulfillment. Look here, once we know that you're celebrating a birthday, an anniversary, whatever, and I know about it and it comes up on my radar, we're going to give you the same love. Hey, let's see who's in the house. Marshall, good evening, my sweet. How are ya? Jasaria, what happened? I've been missing you, man. Or you been busy trying to clean up on those Black Friday specials? Or you just been lurking in the background? It's good to have you with us. One in Christ, 890. Jesus died for you. God bless. And sure, he did for all of us. Thank you for that gentle reminder. Connie Bonnie, how are you, my love? Happy Wednesday to you. Connie, did you see who's back? Jimbo is back. Jim was commenting, Connie. That's why you were on fire. I just think you had that energy going on. You felt that Jimbo was going to be back. Jim is back. He commented yesterday, but I wanted to do this, just welcome him back today, because where the conversation went yesterday, he was commenting, but I didn't want to take away from this very moment of welcoming Jim back. He's really now a single man, I guess, because Connie divorced him. I didn't give up on hope. Where there's love, there's hope. I never did. So my man is back. So Connie, just fall in line, girlfriend. Fall in line. Jimbo is back. Jim, it's good to have you back, my love, and can't wait. Wishing you, you and everybody else happy holidays. And I hope that you've had a well-rested vacation and you're back and ready to embrace the warmth and love that we offer here in the Cayman Islands. Yeah. Ms. Marjorie, how are you? Thank you very much. I'm a Christmas girl. I'm a Christmas baby, not a baby as in baby, but I love the season. So thank you, Ms. Marjorie. Hey, Damien, how are you? Good evening to you as well. Blessings to you as well, Miss Donna. Hope you're feeling better each day. Stephanie, good afternoon. And you as well. The roads are crazy. OMG. Yeah, the roads are crazy. Yeah, I ventured out this afternoon and I was trying to get back before I got late. Won't do that again. I'll be out there the crack of dawn. But yeah, Stephanie, it's good to have you join us on the platform. Always good to see you and give you a thumbs up every now and again with your posting. I know you love those postings. Yeah, Connie Bonnie, he's welcoming back Jim. He's no longer yours, girl. You served those divorce papers. You put his clothes out. So you got to humble yourself. Humble yourself. What do you say? Yeah, I'll take it back. That's right. Take that back. So you divorced the man. You put his clothes out. So it's where there's love, there's hope, girl. I held on. I know he would come back. And we'll leave it just like that. Hi, Annie Manny. How you doing, my sweet? How you doing? It's good to have you all join us. Yesterday, there was a question that came up that I didn't get to respond to, and my apologies to that question, to that person that posted that question. And it was whether or not a person who's an RERC, a permanent resident holder here in the Cayman Islands, is able to employ a domestic helper. Well, straight up, short answer is yes. Yes, you can. RERC holders can apply for domestic helper's work permit if the person is not a Caymanian, not a person on RERC themselves as a spouse of Caymanian, and or they once they are not free of immigration control, then yes, you can employ. But the answer is yes, you can employ someone as a domestic helper. If the person requires a work permit, you would go through the work permit process with a formal application, being able to justify why you need this domestic helper. There may actually you have to demonstrate proof of funds. And if it's a child or children, you need to do a solid application justifying the issuance thereof. So yeah, there you have it. For those of you just joining us, thank you, my love. You always sound and appear to be having a girl. I gotta do it, Tisha. Gotta do it. Gotta pull yourself out of the rut, no matter what. When you come here on this platform, I gotta present. I gotta execute. So no matter what my day may have started like, I control that. But I gotta be fresh because I know you guys depend on me, like so many do. And yeah, you're gonna have those slugger days. But to be honest with you, I look forward to these shows and I just enjoy interacting with you. And this is why your feedback is so important. 936-8255 to join in on the conversation. Feel free to WhatsApp me if you're on Facebook, YouTube. Definitely, you can also follow me there. Like I said yesterday, we abruptly ended the live stream on the CMR TV and all of the CMR platforms because there was another scheduled programming come up. And the conversation continued after, but it only continued on my platform. So that is Sabrina Turner on Facebook, community activist. We continued on that. And also on YouTube, there's a Sabrina Speaks on YouTube as well. So we're hoping that don't happen too often, but there are just sometimes conversations you can't break based on the subject matters. So if you're not following my page, that's fine. Go ahead and follow it. So it's not so hard to find me should that ever happen again. But if you're ever wanting to find me, should that happen again, you just look for Sabrina Turner, community activist on Facebook and also on YouTube if the conversation continues. Yeah. Okay. So those just joining us, thank you so much, Annie. Much appreciated. So for those of you who are joining us tonight, there's a lot to unpack. We're going into, yesterday we ended, even though we were talking about the Muslims and that community and pretty much rocking the foundations of who we are. It was only after I had already broken down the appeal process, keeping it in topic with the immigration white paper as we go through the different clauses. Today, my aim is to try and go from clause 9 to 15. I will do my best to break it down in layman's terms, because as we know, this will be before the House on the 10th of what we're hearing now, the 10th of December for debate. Again, there's 15 amendments that we're hearing of. We don't know what those amendments are. I'm not aware as of today that the immigration regulations that go along with this bill is in the public's domain as yet. So a lot of the fees that you will hear me refer to as I read it and break it down, I'm not able to say what the fees will be because those fees will only be actually in the regulations. Even certain requirements as well sometimes for certain types of applications will actually be in the regulations, but until they're made public, it actually have this law half baked or 3/4 baked, so to speak. So yeah, we're just going to continue down, and from 9 to 15, clause 9 speaks about residency pathway. It defines eligibility for long-term residency. And we're going to talk and delve into how accessible are these pathways for Caymanians versus expatriates, which, Caymanians, you could be the Caymanian but marry an expat, and vice versa. And then clause 10 talks about rights and protections. It outlines the rights granted to residents under the immigration law. And talking about these protections balanced with our own Caymanian culture and preservation is where we'll try to get those talking points. But my aim is to just, in layman's term, go through all of these different clauses for you, break them down in layman's terms. And should you have any questions or concerns in regards to this, by all means, either call in and join in on the conversation or send me your message. I'm making sure I post your comments as quickly as I can so we don't miss anything, right? Clause 11 talks about the employment and economic participation. That particular clause sets out conditions for work permits and the labor market access, right? That's another big thing that we realize now is not going to go away anytime soon. It is expected come January of 2026 that there will be 40,000 and more work permits in circulation here based on the demand of the markets and various sections, okay? So we're going to talk about, does this clause really safeguard Caymanian workers while allowing fair opportunities for others? That's up to you, wherever you want to take that when we get to that clause. Clause 12 also sets out cultural safeguards. And this particular clause addresses preservation of Caymanian traditions. You see, we kind of jumped that yesterday, but I love the conversation because this is your space. And that is why we want to make sure that once you bring up a topic, we're gonna delve into it. Participation is key. That, and you are the bloodline and continuity of this show. Better late than never. Hi, Mitzi Tomlinson. Good to have you join us. Donnie Bonnie, hope you are actually on the mend and you're doing well. Now, clause 13 is accountability and oversight. This particular clause speaks about, and it establishes mechanisms for government transparency and the big word, enforcement. Yes. So that particular section will show what recommendations, what changes this particular section is actually recommending. And then clause 14, if we get here, encourages social cohesion between Caymanians and residents. Yeah, I said that. I said it. It's actually in there. And, these practical steps fostering unity without eroding identity. So it is, we got all of these things that are going down pretty much into today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. And I'm just hoping that we will get through it and we can explain it. But if I'm going too fast, or if you have questions, please post them here. I will address them as quickly as I can. Now, let's just go into what clause. I'm going straight into it because it's already called at 5:30. And I know I'd like to give you time to ask and participate as well. Clause 9 now amends, and every now and again, you'll see me looking like cockeye because I'm reading some of the laws as we go along to make it make sense. I've tried to consolidate the explanation in order for context and interpretation so that you can follow along with me as best as you can. From time to time, I will use examples. I will use analogies. Sometimes I'll insert myself, or like I can pick on Dawn or Anne because they used to work with me in immigration. So they will understand for the discussions why I would be probably using their names, okay, just in case. Now, clause 9 amends section 26 of the Principal Act. And this clause says, among other things, to provide another mechanism by which a person who believes that person possesses the right to be Caymanian under 26(1)(b) may be formally confirmed by the director of WORC as having that right. Okay. Yeah, I know that's what that clause is saying. So 26 subsection 1B, we're going into what you hear about acknowledgements and grants and who's Caymanians and ghost Caymanians and all that sort of stuff. That's what we're talking about, okay? And I'm going to make sure now that I break this down for you. Section 26 of the Immigration Act, as I said, deals with who has the right to be Caymanian. Okay. Connie, look who just popped up. The man himself, Connie Bonnie. There you go. Boy, Jim, you don't know. I can see that smile. I can feel it all the way here that Connie has now. She's divorced you. She's taken a back seat. So you're all mine, my love. You're all mine. She threw your clothes out and everything, Jim, but it's good to have you back with us, my sweet. Going back and putting the focus now back on this section 26 of the Immigration Act. As I said, this deals with who has the right to be Caymanian. And clause 9 adds, which we've already covered, adds the formal process for people who believe they qualify under this particular section, okay? So instead of just claiming the right to be Caymanian, they now apply, they have the ability and to apply to the director of work and officially confirm that they are Caymanian. So in plain as I can get it, I was born here, or if I qualify through my parents, so I have the right to be Caymanian, okay? I was born here, or I qualify through my parents, one or more of my parents, I have the right to be Caymanian, but there's a process. Before that, might have been more of a legal assumption, right? Because one of my parents is Caymanian, and hello, I born here. That was a legal assumption or something proven only if challenged. And we saw that came about when our own were applying for scholarships or applying for job. Now there is a clear mechanism. I know some of you could be saying, Jesus, she's still telling me that we got to apply. Don't shoot the messenger. This is what's in the actual recommendations, okay? Before, there was no clear mechanism of you proving that you're Caymanian. Now there is. You can apply to WORC and receive an official confirmation letter or certificate that recognizes you as a Caymanian. It's like turning a belief or a claim that you're Caymanian into a formal stamp of approval from government. Now, I know this is going to rub some of you the wrong way, but until certain things are changed, and I think it even requires possibly some constitutional change, I stand to be corrected. Anyone who was born here, and I did a show on that, and if I have to regurgitate that at a later date and put this on, let's see if this law is going to be approved. I did a show on the history of how persons came, how we got to this point of being born here and have to prove that you're Caymanian, right? I will actually bring that up, but let's make this go through first and see what becomes of it. But really, for what is being recommended now, what was absent is now clear as what is being recommended. And why this is important, as is disheartening as it is, it really gives peace of mind and proof. Instead of you just saying you're Caymanian, you actually have official confirmation now. It is clearer in legislation, okay? And this is easily, you just don't show up with your Cayman passport saying you Caymanian, here's my passport. Unfortunately, that isn't just how it works. Many of people in HR professionals for jobs, so employers, schools, and banks, scholarships, which falls on the schools and stuff, it makes it easier to verify someone's Caymanian status without disputes, and you having to actually you're presenting your documents to WORC, waiting for a confirmation letter, and then you don't have to go and dig up your mother's, your grandparents' birth certificates, their passport, or in some cases, you even need a DNA. So if you do this process, it won't be needed. And then from the government standpoint, what this recommendation is envisaging is that it provides a structure, way to recognize Caymanian rights and avoid, again, confusion or abuse of the system. So, at the end of the day, this whole section 26(1)(b) of the Immigration Transition Act says that a person has the right to be Caymanian if they were born in the islands and at least one of their parents was Caymanian at the time of their birth. But you don't just assume it, which is what I said at the beginning. You have to, it's best to just do the process. Trust me, it's best to do the process, okay? Because this part of the law covers those persons who are Caymanian by right of descent, okay? It's easy in this case. If you were born in Cayman, and like I said, at least one parent was already Caymanian when you were born, then you automatically have the right to be Caymanian. Think of it like this. If your mother or your dad was Caymanian when you were born, and you were born here in Cayman, you don't need to apply for Caymanian status in a sense where if you were born before 1977. Now, anyone born after that, you have to, okay? It is just a formality. But what this clause 9 actually does that dovetails into this section, and I know it can be a little confusing, it gives the formal right of way for that to actually happen, okay? And I know it's very emotive. I've seen persons who have gotten married and they've had to prove their parents' birth certificates. I have seen parents who have had to apply for their sons or daughters, their children's acknowledgement to prove that they're Caymanians. And when they actually show up with all of their children's stuff, they get told, you need it yourself. Because the parents were born after 1977. Now, immigration is that accommodating that if it's for the purpose for education and it's that time of the year to block a scholarship or even the processing of a Cayman travel document, sometimes you catch them after the fact, immigration will actually take the application, not actually chastise the child, the applicant in this case, because the parent, one or both parents need it for themselves. They will actually process that application, but encourage the parent as well to get themselves sorted out. So, if Sarah was born in Georgetown and her father is Caymanian and her mother, let's say, is Jamaican, under section 26(1)(b), Sarah is Caymanian by right, okay? In this case, a number of due diligence would be asked, like marriage certificates of the parents. If the case where the child now being born, Sarah, was born out of wedlock, and remember, now we said the mother is from Jamaica and probably does not have status for the purpose of this conversation, but they're claiming the right to be Caymanian from the father, then there would be the question to prove that the father, the Caymanian father, is the father, and that in those cases, a DNA would be needed, okay? Let's say Sarah's mother was the Caymanian and her father was the expat. In that case, there would be no need for a DNA because Sarah would be getting it from the mother. You follow me? We know who was in the delivery room. We know exactly who had the delivery, in this case, the mother. So the mother being Caymanian, Sarah would automatically be Caymanian. You wouldn't have to do a DNA unless the father wanted. That's going down another rabbit hole. But you get my picture. Now, let's say Sarah's mother and father were married at the time of her birth. Sarah's father is Caymanian. Because of the very marriage, immigration wouldn't pressure for the application for a DNA to be done. Okay, you follow me so far? The actual marriage before the birth of the child then would actually remove that requirement from Sarah claiming Caymanian citizenship through the father once there was a marriage. Okay, so I'm hoping that that actually clears that up. You're more than welcome, Jimbo. Sure, even though I was sad that you were gone for so long. There you go. Look at there. See, you're all stay right there. Hey, Iva, late, but you're all right. You're all right. Thanks for commenting. Let's move on now to clause 10. Now, this goes into a section called section 28 of the actual current law that's in effect, okay? But it's a clause into this section that would actually impact section 28 should it actually be approved. And this clause says to vary the length of time for which certain categories of persons have to be legal and ordinarily resident in the islands in order to acquire the right to be Caymanian under that section. So this particular section, I'm going to paraphrase as I go, is trying to clarify exactly the length of time persons, certain categories of persons have to be legal and ordinarily resident here, meaning living here. This particular clause as well, clause 10, also further amends the same section 28 of the law to vary the length of time for which a person has to be married or in a civil partnership with a Caymanian from a specific date before that person may apply for the right to be Caymanian. Now you're hearing that is now being stretched from 7 years to 15. Okay. 7 years now under the eligibility criteria under this law. So if you get married now, if you get married tomorrow, if you get married before this law goes into effect, you can apply for Caymanian status on your 7-year wedding anniversary. If you get married after this law comes in effect, you then have to be married for a total of 15 years. But this particular clause is quite lengthy. And Denny pointed it out that some of these clauses are so lengthy in amendments, which is why he was saying, why are we rushing this? And I really see where he was going with that. And this is why I'm taking my time to bring it and break it down to you. Okay, so that clause also amends the length of time somebody has to be married. We've ventilated that already. And additionally, the clause further amends the same section of the law to provide the requirement for a person who is granted the right to be Caymanian to provide annually declarations containing prescribed particulars in respect of the persons granted the right to be Caymanian and persons' dependents. So in this case, the applicant's dependents on the anniversary date of the grant of the right to be Caymanian or the date the board may specify. This obligation is proposed to last for a period of 7 years after the person is granted the right to be Caymanian, and failure to provide the annual declaration is an offense and a ground for revocation of the right to be Caymanian. So, in addition, this is just in one section, and we're not done. It says further amendments under the same clause 10, amending section 28. The further amendments is introducing prescribed financial standing requirements for the surviving spouse or civil partner of a marriage or civil partnership whose dependents were who has dependents where the marriage or civil partnership has not lasted for 7 years. That's 7 years if they haven't celebrated 7-year anniversary and the spouse dies, as a part of the person's application for the right to permanently reside in the islands. So you see exactly how, I would say, jam-packed that, even though to some it may seem minor, and that's those who are in the business, just making it out clear. For the average Joe, that's a lot to really digest. So please allow me to break it down. What really all of this is saying is that this clause will make a number of changes to the current act, right? And it deals with how someone can get Caymanian status. And the changes are, and I'm going to break it down just so you can follow. Residency requirements changes. Some categories of people right now must now live here for a different, either longer or shorter period of time before they can qualify to be Caymanian. Okay, we already established that. Once it pertains to a marriage or civil partnership requirement changes, if you're married to or in a civil partnership with a Caymanian, the law is changing the minimum length of time you must be in that relationship or marriage before you can apply for Caymanian status, okay? And then the third part of that is the declaration requirement. If you are granted Caymanian status, you must file every year for 7 years a declaration form that will include information about yourself and your dependents, like a spouse and your children, okay? And failure to actually do this, failure to file that, right? It would be considered an offense, and the government then, or WORC, the board, can revoke your Caymanian status. The fourth amendment to this section is the requirement of surviving spouses or partners. So should your spouse or partner die, and your marriage lasted less than 7 years, you hadn't been married for 7 years or more, you must then show that you have enough funds to support yourself and any dependents in order then to apply for continuation of that or residency of some sort for your own self after the passing of your spouse or partner, okay? So, Miss Rose, can I now apply for my husband's status or our marriage, as our marriage is 6 years? No, ma'am. Under the current law, Miss Rose, you have to be married for 7 years, okay? So in your case, because you guys got married, subject to change without notice, and I don't know what the amendments are, I have to do this disclaimer. Because your marriage took place as it is right now and based on interpretation, the protection, the transition clause, Miss Rose, will actually protect you and your husband for the application and eligibility requirement to apply for his Caymanian status. He can't apply for the Caymanian status as a spouse of a Caymanian, Miss Rose, until you have already celebrated 7 years of marriage. So one day after your wedding, your 7th wedding anniversary, he can apply for that Caymanian status, okay? Going back to the rules around that. Jimbo, what are you saying? New amended marriage law. You now have to get past that 7-year itch. Some of that coming tree. Some not even lasting one. You're talking about 15 now, Jimbo. But no, I really hope people are taking this serious, to be honest with you, because I just feel in many ways that I see the purpose of this part being done because there have been a lot of breaches and sham marriages. I can see what they're trying to do, but they're penalizing those who get into these marriages for the right reason, for God's sakes. But hey, I don't want to digress. So, in plain terms, this particular section 10 tightens. It literally puts all sorts of craftsman deadlock and bolts, so to speak. The rules, it tightens the rules around becoming a Caymanian. Because you may need to live here longer before qualifying. So that means you can't just be married and say, hey, I'm married, but I was living in Dubai or wherever. I just decided to come back home now with my spouse, but we've been married for 14 years. I think they need to get status because we've been married. Legal and ordinarily residence in those cases will still apply. Okay. So you may need to live here a little bit longer before qualifying is what this section is tightening up. You may also, if you got it and you have been someplace else, that's also open you up to a Pandora box of being investigated, and you risk the chance of losing your status if you're somewhere else. And you may need to be married or a partner for longer than before applying right now with what is being proposed. And once you're granted this status, you will be monitored for 7 years. And in that monitoring stage, that is where you file then this yearly paperwork proving your situation hasn't changed. Should there be a change in additional dependents, change in your marital status, let's say you're separated, we're hoping that you'd be honest. We're hoping that maybe they may even ask whether or not you're working, whether or not you've had a job change. Bearing in mind, though, even though all of this is going on, once you're married to a Caymanian, there are no annual fees anyhow. You don't make any money from these persons being married to Caymanian. I guess that's why it's a bargain. So what is happening here is that you're now having to file this declaration for 7 years. You have to report any changes. And if your Caymanian spouse dies before you've been married for 7 years, then you'll need to prove you can financially support yourself and your family before being allowed to stay permanently. So if there were, let's say, stepkids here, or let's say an in-law, your mother, let's say you brought your mother and your Caymanian spouse dies, and their income, the Caymanian spouse's income, played a part in your in-laws or your children being here. This is why these checks and balances are now being done, because you'd have to declare that as well. And if your income alone doesn't support that, then you risk the chance of your application not being successful. Okay. I'm just using these as examples. Now, why this is so important, because I can tell you there have been some serious cases that have gone unnoticed, some who have fell through because there's just not enough manpower to really monitor all of these. Again, the enforcement arm, the gatekeepers need to be upskilled. They need to be tooled. They need to be trained. They need to be funded in order to make this legislation work. And it's going to require multi-agency government departments to play along with this, which is why some of the earlier clause with the sharing of information with the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service, and I think the DAF, Department of Children and Family Services, whatever that new acronym is, all of these departments now and more are sharing information and hoping now that whole breaking down of silos and each government department communicating with each other will help the enforcers, the gatekeepers, be able to find persons who are just not being compliant with the law. So for the government, it prevents abuse of the system. Like we say, these marriages of convenience and these sham marriages. And it also hopefully will ensure new Caymanians are financially stable as well. We understand that, that department now, as soon as status is granted to some of these applicants, the first place their head down is to what we used to call Department of Financial Assistance, I think is what it's called now, but NAU. They found themselves down there seeking government aid, and that's pretty much within a short time of being granted Caymanian status. And then for families, from the families aspect, this particular section sets out clear expectations as to how long relationships and residency must last before rights are actually granted. So at the end of the day, what you see being actually presented and what will come to fruition, I think I grabbed an image here so we can share that with you so you can see it on screen. Let's see. We're trying to think today. Yeah, there we go. I got it. Government aid. What madness is that? Yeah, some of them, as soon as they're granted, they actually go there and apply, because even though persons can apply for assistance if they fall in hard times without being Caymanian, there is certain funding that is given to that department. Should persons need a little assistance until they either get back to their country of origin or they fall in hard time, it's not just, but for like medical insurance and that sort of stuff, food vouchers, assistance with rent, assistance with food and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, you need to show that you're Caymanian or to tap into the full suite of services. And sometimes as soon as the status is granted and paid for, bang, it is alleged that a number of them find themselves down there seeking aid. Not to tell you that it's not legitimate, but this is why that financial standing part of it is also key, because sometimes they will have children that join them here that are not the biological children, either the adopted of, let's say, the deceased Caymanian, just for context, okay? Let me hope you can read this so that you can see the two laws side by side. The old law, which is touted here as the rule, and then after the amendment clause. So you see where we'll have that residency, a requirement. The old law says certain categories of people who live in the Cayman Islands for a set number of years, 5, 7, 10 years, depending on the category, a person could apply for Caymanian status, right? And under this new clause, the length of time may vary, and some categories may be longer or shorter, and exact timelines are adjusted or tightened to clarify eligibility. And then you got the civil marriage and partnerships, and those, that means a person could apply for status after being married or in a civil partnership for a specific time. Again, in this case, 5 years. And under the new requirement, it is actually saying that the required length of time of marriage is now changed, and you must now be married for a longer period of time to apply. Then the annual declaration we're saying is now annual reporting. Under the current law, no annual reporting was necessary and was required once you're granted Caymanian status. Now, what is being proposed for the 7 years after being granted Caymanian status, you must file a yearly declaration with WORC about yourself and your dependents. And if you fail to do that, that will lead to an offense, possible revocation of your status. And when it comes to the surviving spouse of a deceased Caymanian now, remember what I was telling you about that? If a Caymanian spouse or partner died, you could apply for permanent residence without extra financial requirements, even if the marriage was short. What this actually is doing now under what is newly proposed, if the marriage or partnership is less than 7 years, one of the requirements then is that you will have to show financial stability, which in further context, show that you're able to support yourself and any dependents before being granted permanent residency or the continuation thereof. So that's pretty much it side by side for context. And yeah, Miss Rose, thanks for that information. 7 years for us will be July 19th. Uh-huh. What you think of that, love on the sun, sweet, sweet. The ship. Amen. You go, girl. Good for you. We'll celebrate with you on the 19th. Yeah. So whatever date that is, Miss Rose, you can do that application thereafter. They're impede on the rights to their benefits. Yeah, Miss Bonnelly, but what do you do when they get married to us? Love is something that is hard to really, I don't know. Yes. Jasmine, abusing government systems, that's not right. Not if it can be justified, Jasmine. You see, they would not have been able to tap into a full suite of services prior to getting Caymanian citizenship, Caymanian status approved. So once that happens, then you see they can actually they're treated like indigenous Caymanians. So in plain terms, residency from the residential status. I come to this. For the residency part, you need to live here longer before qualifying. Okay. For the marriage, you must be married to a partner longer before applying. And then the monitoring section of it, for 7 years after becoming a Caymanian, you will be checked annually. And for widows or widowers, if your Caymanian spouse dies before 7 years of marriage, you must prove financial stability to stay permanently. Okay. Yeah. So this clause really is all about tightening the rules and adding accountability, making sure that the people who gain Caymanian status are genuinely committed, financially stable, and not abusing the system. Shoshana, how does this affect children of expat parents that were born and schooled here? How does this, what? The status? Or legal and ordinary residents? How does this affect children of expats whose parents were born and schooled here? You then apply for whatever acknowledgement for these children. How does this affect children of expatriates? So expatriates mean that they would not have anything. If they're born here and at the time of their birth, Shoshana, neither parent is Caymanian, those children will have to be amended on whatever permission they have to actually be here. If the parents, let's say, acquired permanent residence, then they would include those children. And then eventually those children, upon reaching the age of 18 or 21, if they tertiary studies, they would then be eligible to apply for some sort of continuation or a residency in their own right. But to answer you directly, once these children are born here in the Cayman Islands to two expatriates who were not Caymanian status holders at the time of their birth, those children take the nationality of their parent. I'm hoping I'm making that clear for context. The new immigration law, being born here to two expatriates does not make one Caymanian. That particular section, Miss Ebanks, has not changed. One or more parents must be Caymanian at the time of the child's birth. Okay, so whatever the parents of the child, or based on the question that you've asked, whatever facility, if they're on a government contract, if they're on a PR holder, or if they're on a work permit, once they have children, in order for those kids to remain here, they need to do the necessary amendments to include them as dependents on whatever they have that allows them to be here and actually go to school. Now, if what you're saying, if they were born here, we've cleared that up, and go to school here, fine. Once these kids reach 18, they're then able to apply for whatever they're entitled to apply for at the age of 18. Should they be in college or university, with the extension after applying for WORC for continuation of whatever dependency they may be on, or we don't know, maybe before they even get 18, the parents may be Caymanian, then those kids would be entitled to acknowledgement themselves. So it's a very broad question, could go down many, many pathways. So there's not just one answer, but to just deal with that answer head on. Being born here to two expats, and at the time of the children's birth, neither of those expats had status, has not changed. They automatically take the nationality of their parents. Okay. Mood cruise. In that case, if the marriage looks shaky or is sham, the non-Caymanian spouse should make provisions in case they're back in their country that they would be that would be wise. It would be, but sometimes these partners, remember now, there's a provision under this recommendation where if there's a child or children involved, that the director of WORC can look at whatever's presented and determine whether or not that non-Caymanian person, because they may have a child or children that are Caymanian, would be entitled to keep whatever they are currently on should the marriage goes awry. Okay, so there is now a new mechanism, there's now a new bridgeway in this amendment that would allow the expatriate person to justify the continuation thereof. Before, the current law says once the marriage ended, and worse if there are no children, and that still means the same, just that the WORC director has discretion now, and it doesn't have to necessarily go to the board. So I guess once you make your case, it's up to the director of work to determine whether one will continue. Now, one will say that's a little tricky. It's a room for possible abuse. Look, everything is documented, and we're hoping that will never be the case, and that I know immigration was hard and fast back in the day. Dawn, you can actually confirm this for me, where they didn't want to really be the mediators should relationships and marriage go awry. Oh, it was his fault. It was the Caymanian's fault why we're not together, even though we don't have children, which is why if the marriage did not subsist, if the marriage didn't last, automatically you were cut. And then they actually said, look, if you have a child or children of the marriage, or by that Caymanian, we will give consideration for you to retain what you have until the children gets 18, or if they're in college, until they finish their tertiary education, just so that that child will remain here. And that's where the anchor baby syndrome came out. You understand? So now what it has done is, and that was really to avoid picking sides when there wasn't a child, but now, child or children, now it appears from interpretation that without a child or children, that once a case is made to the director of work and the marriage or relationship goes sour, they can actually decide whether or not that post holder can decide whether or not the residency status, the residency can be retained. The new law. I'm of the opinion that currently, if these kids remain on island and never leave, example, kids being here for at least 10 years, these kids can apply for stay. That's usually the case, though. As I said, that's very broad how you're presenting it. And for the context of just keeping clarity for what these amendments are, is all I'm actually bringing forward. But each case is unique. However, with what they're trying to do now with tightening up some of these things, it doesn't, back in the day, once you were here for 10 years or more, you could apply for Caymanian status and that was removed. Once you were here one day after 10 years, you could apply for status. You didn't have to go through the PR process. You could just apply for that. And that was removed when Ivan was 2004. Is it 2004 and 19? Yeah, 2004. That was removed under Section 17(1) then of the immigration law. And that was removed because, again, we had gone through this whole thing of immigration reform where it was we were building too fast. And they said you need then to go through the PR process. And that was when that was removed for the same reason. So being here for 10 years, in a case that you've described, it all hinges until those children become the age of majority, which is 18. It all depends on how their parents sort out themselves. That will determine these children's path forward. But I'm hoping that the scenario that you're giving, Shoshana, would actually, they would have responsible parents. So by the time they reach 10 years, that the parents then would have sorted out themselves or have an application in for PR. It all depends. It all depends here. Being born here, how long were the parents here? Did the parents apply for anything? I don't know. I know you've asked a generalized question, but it's not that simple because you have to look at each case in its entirety, And even though everyone could end up at a particular point of status some day or at some point, they all take different pathways. And this is why the length of time and eligibility based on each individual circumstances will determine how quickly or how slowly, how much processes one would have to go through before they acquire status. It's not just carte blanche. They were born here to two expats. They've been here for 10 years. Yeah, you're eligible. No, it's not that easy. That ship has long sailed. And if they brought that back, I see that being a riot here in Cayman. But I get your point. I totally understand what you're saying. Real Michelle, how are you this evening? Lordy, lordy. How very interesting. Would love to see an audit and public shaming of those who have stolen trust funds to deceive us as their own income. You would be surprised who you know do this. Oh, really? Well, time will tell. Time will tell. So that's clause 10, Tartarian. They should not be allowed to marry a Caymanian if they come here. Wait, hold on. Come on, Tartarian. When they say those vows, doesn't it say for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do you part? I bet you half on it didn't say on it we're going married to be poorer, but on the say it though, on the say it. But I get what you're saying, Tartarian. Some sort of financial check should be carried out. Just a thought. Well, my love, you have heard the interview with Miss Joy that certain due diligence, first of all, needs to be done. And what she recommended is that an entire department be created. Now, I know when she was engaging with me on this very platform, she was more about doing due diligence checks prior to marriage, during the marriage, and so forth. Now, this is another element, but it's after the fact. Okay. But I guess, let's be fair. You got to start from somewhere. This part, what do you consider broke? What do you consider broke? At the end of the day, what do you consider broke? And if you're entering these unions for the right reason, to be honest, through thick or thin, tongue and teeth will meet at some point. You will have your disagreements. And many persons actually get in relationships. They, it all depends on where you're coming from, because I have some friends that they know they don't want to be with no broke person or someone who doesn't have a job, or don't have ambition. And then it all depends on where you guys meet and you fall in love. Love is blind. You may know that you're coming into a relationship where probably you're here and they're here, but you see the potential where at some point, remember, the Caymanian is here, the expatriate is here, but you see where there is a potential for ambition. And with the Caymanians' help, maybe they can elevate themselves to come up. We do have some cases where they're here and then it looks as though the Caymanian is doing this. It got to, we got to stay up here and you come up and then we rise together. But to each his own. I'm not judging. So it's going to be interesting what some people look for. Some people just go for the emotions. Once you get married, you give me my little every Friday or whatever. Look, it's different. I can't speak, but we're hoping that the enforcement arm for this purpose will actually nab some of these things. And that will be a thing of the past, because now you got to be married after this law comes into effect for 15 years to qualify for the golden ticket of Caymanian status. And I think the path even to naturalization is changing. And a little birdie tells me that that's going to have a significant increase, a cost. I'm going to digress just a second because that's under the British Nationality Act. But the only way you can get your Cayman passport is if you're naturalized. That is gone from $800 or is going from $825 right now, I think, to $1,800 or $1,800 and odd dollars. So it's like an additional $1,000 to apply for naturalization. Yeah. So we'll get there. I'll share it with you as we come. So for anybody getting into a relationship now and you really genuinely don't love the person, but it gives you right of tenure and you got to go through all of this, boy, you got stomach, you got gall. Oh gosh. The real Michelle at Tartarian. Okay. At the turn of a dime, all riches can be gone. Marriage is about, weathering those storms and having faith in divine God. Broke is a state of mind if you have love and light collectively. That's so true, girl. That's true. That's so true. You said it, but nowadays it don't look like they're lasting, because some people get into these things on feelings and emotions instead of looking at whether two people are actually compatible. And then it is said that in your lifetime, like when our grandparents and parents got married, they just stuck it out like through thick or thin. And they kept things on the DL. And then they would be telling you stuff as your children, like, take time to know them. Don't jump. And they would be speaking like in parables. And then they will have some stories to tell you when you get old enough and you're like, why the hell did you stay in that? But they did. And they never wore it. And you would think that it's just different times. And I'm seeing relationships now taking a different turn. But yeah, there we go. What if an expat marries a Caymanian man and finds out that the man no longer wants to work and finance his spouse, but rather wants his spouse to maintain him? Find a lawyer. Get rid of him quick. Oh, yeah. What if an expat marries a Caymanian man and finds out that the Caymanian man, no longer wants to work and finance the expat wife, but rather wants his spouse to maintain him? If I were that wife, I'd be gone. Ain't no papers are putting up for no 15 years for that. Gonna hold no noose around my neck, because then that person would have changed based on the context that you've just shared, unless it was an agreement. We don't know, but that is not a case. It all depends on whether or not they can put up with it. If that's okay, fine. But it all depends. But I tell you what, ain't nobody gonna put no noose around my neck, unless the person is sick. And that really depends on commitment, but it's a very broad question. We don't know. But if one has ambition and just decides, look, yeah, I marry you, you have a right to stay here, I could stay home. You need to do all of that now because it's because of me in this marriage that you got to stay and you service Papa and you bring home the money, honey. And yeah, I just be good old daddy. If you know you can't deal with that, don't make that actually cause you to stay in that. I would find a lawyer clickety split. There we go. But to each his own. Oh my God. Thank God I already got mine. And Miss Lindsay, Alice, I'm not being funny. I'm just being very real. That's how I would deal with that. One has to know what they're willing to put up with. And if it was agreed, and that's what they can deal with, to each his own. It couldn't be me though. I mean, I can understand if one is really sick, but if they got ambition, which is why I gave this scenario, if you married me here, and I know you came in here, immigration reform or immigration thing, or just, solidifying yourself because you no longer need a work permit, you're no longer limited to what jobs or positions you can hold, but you have the skill set and the ability to better yourself, then look, the marriage to me, because of where I'm at, allows you to build and invest in yourself and we reach each other, right? But it ain't no way you here, and then I gotta go here. No. I prefer be alone. Oh yeah. Connie Bonnie, I never see or hear my grandma and grandpa argue. Yeah, I'm hearing that from a number of the older persons as well. And let me tell you, they had ish going on, but it wasn't as brawl. Of course, they didn't have social media. They didn't have all these smartphones to catch a little thing on the side, like when they're cheating and all that sort of stuff. But guess what? They had a couple of village rams back in the day, and now you're finding out you got sisters you never even knew you had. And they just held it down. And they took a lot of stuff to their graves that you would never know. So at the end of the day, my love, they just dealt with it differently. Things and times have changed. And what my mother or grandmother would tolerate back in the day, I wouldn't. Things and times have just changed. And I'm quite sure in these early relations, these modern day relationships now, the tolerance is a little lower. However, we may hear it from the Christian side that you, through thick or thin, marriage is one. You got to do it. But if there's abuse, if you realize that you're on different paths, if you realize that you're just not compatible, or in the context that given that after we get married now, the Caymanian wants the expat to work just because. No, no. Oy, I feel my temperature rising. Real Michelle, our ancestors did not have the readily salvageable rage bait or things to be mad about either. You got that right. Because half the time, if they were seamen, they weren't even home. Today, one can find anything to hate, and we take it all home to bed every night. Well, I know this nugget turned into no marriage counseling, but I see the questions, and I have to address them as best as I can. You're quite right. A lot of what I've been finding in relationships is that communication is horrible. It's like they're speaking different languages, and silence is the new communication. And then things continue to erode. But yeah, you're quite right. There wasn't a lot of distractions, but people were just busy trying to keep roofs over their heads. And when they did, if they were out sea, every time they came home, oh yeah, there was a baby, and then they left, and the mothers took care of them, and all of that sort of stuff. So I must say, I think it's the time. Whether or not we fight to keep what we have a little bit more, I think we become less tolerant of certain things. You expect more, I feel, from partners than what our parents and grandparents would have tolerated. So I think it's a lot of communication is key. And don't go to bed without solving it. And you hash it out until both sides meet a happy medium. And it's always, I don't believe in a tit for tat because you did this, I must do that, or I must always be right, or you silence by saying your side because it doesn't matter. No, just ventilate it, air it out, talk it out. Let's talk it out. And that can go a long way. But I feel a lot of times that's not happening. Lindsay Alice Ebanks, I agree with you. I would get out of it too. I don't tolerate any kind of abuse. And it doesn't have to be physical. It could be emotional. It could be mental abuse. And I don't even know what you would categorize that one as, to be honest. But I'm hoping that your friend or whoever this question was for will will have the talk with the spouse first. And if there's no giving in, that they will have the strength to get out. And all depends on how young the marriage is. Maybe they may be qualified for an annulment that they don't even have to go through the divorce. Tartarian. Question. Someone just asked me, what is the difference between naturalization and status? Okay, huge difference. Naturalization is handled under the British Nationality Act. Caymanian status is under immigration. Caymanian status allows you, if you get it through descent, parent or grandparent being born in the islands, grounds of naturalization, if you've been here on the grounds for more than 15 years, 15 years or more, and are already naturalized, you can get for status on the grounds of naturalization. And if you're on the grounds of marriage, under the current law, 7 years, or continuation at the age of 18. So there's different forms of Caymanian status, okay? And naturalization now, under the British Nationality Act, makes you a British Overseas Territory citizen under the British Nationality Act of 1981. And that entitles you to getting a Cayman passport. You can get naturalization under marriage and under length of time, okay? Children is entitled to it as well, but your living requirement has a lot to do with it. And if you're outside of the islands for an extended period of time, in some cases for more than 3 months continuously, your eligibility for naturalization can change. And a lot of people get that mixed up. It isn't the same as immigration. Why? Legal and ordinary resident. The time difference between naturalization eligibility and status. They're under two different laws, but the two laws are not married. It's two independent applications. One is local, that is your status, and one is UK, which is your naturalization. I hope I was able to tell you that. You cannot obtain a Cayman passport if you're subjected to, let's say, PR. You get here through PR, you an expat, and you want a Caymanian passport, you will have to get naturalized before you're entitled to acquiring a Cayman passport. And then based on your situation, what countries you're from, that naturalization then opens the door for British citizenship, which is called British registration. And only after that are you then able to apply for the British passport. So there's a whole heap of layers, but it's not just, that's the difference between the two, Tartarian. One is local, one is UK. Okay. Oi, Village Ram. Oh, you something else. They were poor, but faithful to, yeah, Connie. Yeah, girl, they were faithful. They were loyal too, but it was more, look, yeah, you got a women too, you know. Oh, yeah. Boy, I would like to hear some old stories, how that used to go back in the day. But that's another show. I would love to do that though. Have we become less tolerant or more distracted? I think a little of both. Oh, there's a lot of eye candy out there, but some of them is only eye candy. They don't mean you're no good. And that's both genders. You know what you got, you don't know what you're gonna get. But I think both parties just need to be mature. If there's smoke signal in the house, work it out. Work it out. Talk it out or talk yourself out and make everybody happy. There's no sense in being in a toxic relationship because you're afraid to lose your status. There is no sense of remaining in a toxic relationship to preserve your stay. I guess it's easier said than done because we don't know what countries people are from and what hardships they've gone through. If there's no child or children, or if there's multiple businesses, you got a mediator, you can deal with that. But you're not living any quality of life if you are not happy with your partner. And having excuses because of immigration tenure, then you selling your birthright. I don't know. I'm just being as candid and trying to deal with this conversation with as much dignity as I can. But we got a lot of fakers. You got a lot of persons who are now imprisoned. In some cases, because what a saying go? It's cheaper to keep them or cheaper to keep her. In this case, this could go both ways. Cheaper to keep him, cheaper to keep her. But what? Nobody's happy. Nobody's happy. You tolerate each other for whatever reasons, and that sometimes could be social pressures as well. But at the end of the day, when two heads hit pillow, hey, that's really what matters. Connie, listen to me. My husband can cheat. Oh, my husband can cheat all he wants. Oh, I hold the purse strings. Side chick, good luck. I pay my hubby. For true? Well, I know Jim. Hey, that's why she got rid of you quick. Oh my God, confession coming out this evening. Connie says, my husband tells me thanks for money. Really? We have a very good relationship. I do. Not Pete him, and he's the same. No disrespect to each other. We are very civil. Happy wife, happy life. I guess, right, Jim? Oh, you brute. You did. Well, look, it's respect both ways, Connie. And like I said, sometimes you're in relationships, and many a times we don't take enough time to learn each other. And that's where disagreements come in, to be honest. So we just don't take, and every human being, especially when you're living with each other. Some of the best marriages when you live separate, some of you become the best friends when you decide, look, we tried this not gonna work, and you remain the best friends. But then when you're actually living in each other's space and you got to coexist together, you go through these cycles. And especially if the age difference is pretty big, it happens. Just be adults about it and talk it through. And it's nobody's darn business. It's not the Cayman Islands business if you and your partner, your spouse, is not making it. Who gives a crap? It's not you turning the key into that toxic environment. Who cares what other people says? If you know that both of you have worked it out, you talked it out, you decided, like Connie, she pays her husband, he says thanks. Oh my God. Oh Lord, let me hush. At the end of the day, it's what you two decide, how you decide. But I don't feel it should be influenced by what anybody says, because it was two of you at the altar. And even though it was witnessed by friends, families, and loved ones, life happens. It happens. Denver, fake eye candy. Plenty inserts too. Wow, we don't have a 9:30 on this show anyhow. Happy wife, happy life. Connie says, my husband and I went to counseling one time, and we never had to go back. Not even for really. He said, if we can't fix it, nobody can. Well said. Well said. Well said, Connie. So what he's doing now, he's paying you so you don't have to go back to no. You paying him, so I won't have to go back to what I see. What he did, he capitulated to just say, you know what, I can't go through this. Just let me love her for what she is, and at the end of the day, we got to make this through because I ain't doing this crap again. Good for you. I'm so happy for you guys. Nevertheless, just to put a little humor in there. Somebody paying somebody though. Um, Michelle, I was referring to tolerance and distraction, which is of national interest. The amendments appear to clean up. Cayman, but what does that look like for young families? Yeah, I see what they're trying to do. In all fairness, in all honesty, I see exactly what they're trying to do. This amendment, this cleanup exercise will not worth diddly squat if our gatekeepers are not gatekeeping. If people do not report foolishness, scams, frivolous relationships, if they fail to declare it and the processes on the internal arm are not followed through, if they fail to fund the various government departments with skill sets and training and case file management, and to be able to detect certain things, all of what we're talking here is just words on a paper. Without enforcement, this means diddly squat, except for an extended period of time and ultimately still acquiring Caymanian status. They still would be here, free to work, free to possibly get somebody who's a Caymanian to take out a trade and business license for them so that they can operate their company. In this case, could be their spouse, the Caymanian spouse, and they're just extending it through. But unless people actually report these things and enforcement really gets to enforce all of this, the only thing we're getting out of this is extended period of time. And those legitimate unions have now just been extended, especially if they actually get married after this law come into effect. Yeah, that's the only sad part about it. Connie, but the menopause, oh my God, I don't know how he tolerated. It was horrible. Oh, you have a God sent then, Connie. Yeah, I kind of feel you. Mm-hmm. You better thank God for your little husband. Mm-hmm. Tash, witness doesn't mean I wasn't married. Oh, no, I know that. Thank you for it. Yeah, that's true. That's what I'm saying. They could all be, the only two know what these unions are founded on is the two themselves. And the ones that are making the loudest voice about this immigration reform, revocation of Caymanian status, pathways to the Cayman passport, pathways to citizenship, are our very own Caymanians. And if they stop giving away their citizenship by marriage, because it is so easy to marry for any other reason other than what it should be, you can't blame the law. You got to blame the Caymanians who are marrying for other reasons than what they should be marrying for. Or if crap hits the fan and they stay in it under agreement to, well, because, it started off on a good foot and you were so nice to me and you're really nice, but I just can't stand you. Yeah, we just grew apart. But, every now and again you come and you fix the stuff around the house and you do this and you do that. You're really nice. Look, you're in breach of the law because that's not what the law is defining the marriage is. So you can't blame a law. You got to blame every Caymanian that is actually participating in this to stay. Now, of course, sometimes people need a break. But the whole world don't need to know that. Sometimes those break, you don't come back. Now that's where trouble starts. And this is where the mediators come in as well. But overall, I feel at the end of the day, enforcement needs to be funded. They need to get the necessary skill sets, manpower, and training to handle case management. And there are going to be certain breaches under this, even with work permits and so forth, that really and truly, a lot of this enforcement side and the positive impact that this will have as we begin to reform immigration in the Cayman Islands will rest on the shoulders of enforcement. And that is going to rest on the shoulders of the civil servants doing their jobs. And if they're not properly funded, if they're not adequately staffed, if they're not adequately trained to see it, to know what they're looking for, all of this is a waste of time. And it's smoke and mirrors, so to speak. So we can talk about this all we want, but that is the truth. Mm-hmm. Real Michelle. So I wonder why the distraction. I don't know. We all want a piece of British wealth, whether via Cayman or Bermuda. Well, we just need to, Caymanians just need to stop giving it away. The pathway to there, the key to that door is actually every Caymanian. It doesn't matter whether or not you're indigenous, generational, or status. Every time you marry and you stay in it for one to then acquire their citizenship, their Caymanian status, that's another one that we letting in. So the law is there. It's there. And we hope that when you're actually declaring, that you'll be declaring the truth. You can't blame a soul other than ourselves. Each and every one of my 3 marriages were covenant and loving and intended to be for life. But then they were no longer covenant, and that's that. Yeah, but you guys went your separate ways. And I think that's why the conversation is now coming back up about the no fault grounds for divorce. And I think that now is making its way where right now, we had an episode of Sabrina Speaks, Grounds for Divorce here in the Cayman Islands. And it is based on adultery. Pretty much if you're having a side thing, you get catch. There's another one for living apart for more than 3 or 5 years, that you've been living outside of each other or irretrievably broken down. So it's infidelity and that sort of stuff. So in actual fact, if both persons agree that we're going to end the marriage, there are currently no grounds under in which you can file, I stand to be corrected, for a divorce right now in the Cayman Islands, unless you fall within those 4 or 5 categories. But none of them can happen mutually, no fault. It has to have a reason to attach. And so if you want to get out with the no contest, you might as well go and openly have an affair. Because then if you know the marriage is broken down and you just go and say, look, we're done. Let's go. Let's kill this. There's a possibility that one of those grounds have to be met. And that's a total different conversation, to be honest. But so the no fault would actually relieve that, where both parties just say, look, it's not working out. Let's go. Now we could have divorces increase because it could be a dime a dozen, but at least you wouldn't have to be married for no extended period of time. I think no fault will actually stop some of this acquisition to naturalization and Caymanian status, because divorces now are somewhat complex when you have to find grounds within those 5 or restricted areas to prove grounds for divorce. Whereas no fault, we amicably deal with it, whatever auxiliary matters or property or whatever, we can deal with that. It's no fault. So it'll be interesting how that actually progresses. Mood Cruise. It seems like Caymanian status is still for sale. They only extended the pathway, and the salespersons are our very own greedy, giddy-headed Caymanians. Yep, pretty much. That's why I said what I said, Mood Cruise. That's why I said. And it's pretty much chastising those who really got into it for the right reason. Denver, there are still some good men out there. Oh yeah, women too. There are still some good men out there. Women, I don't know that are good women out there. I think far less. Let out to Denver, because everything is about money with them as far as I can see and hear. But you heard the other question, Denver, where the poor expat lady married a Caymanian, and after the marriage, the Caymanian said, look, I gotta stay home now. You need to work for me. So I think this goes both ways. But I just feel a lot of relationships, period, and this is around the world, it's like it's being challenged. It's like you could be dating or in a dating for years. You could be together, not with anybody else. But the second you actually say I do, it's like, ugh. Is it complacency? Is it, oh, line, hook, and sinker? The contract is signed. And then, oh, we're already married. And then you see things that wouldn't normally see. Maintenance is key in every relationship, Denver, I feel. And if you used to have date nights, I mean, life hits you. You have children, work, whatever. But I think it's critical for the survival of any relationship, no matter how big or small it is, that the bedrock of it is God. Second, communication, open communication, no matter what, and building a friendship with that individual. And no matter how difficult the conversations are, I think you need to have them. Some of them are going to be very hard to have. And don't go into any conversations with, I'm going to win. He's wrong. She's wrong. I have to have the last say. I feel that neutral grounds need to be had and both sides need to be heard out. And even if the conversation or the topic has to come up at different intervals because there's a lot or emotions, read the room, read each other's body language. But I feel that's a lot of it. Biblical principles, whoever you serve, open communication, always be honest. And even though you're in a relationship, a marriage, there's just certain privacy that both parties need. It's actually healthy. If I constantly have to be searching pockets, vehicle, phone, computer, Houston, you got a problem. I think that is healthy. And breaks are good. Go out with your friends, but not a habit, okay? Do a lot of things together. And I'm no advisor. I'm no counselor. It's just life, I think. But Denver, there is good and bad everywhere you go, and both genders have their fault, but with certain key ingredients into it. A lot of times we get too complacent. We stop watering the garden. We stop investing in each other once you've got her, a game. And then that's where things start to erode. It is. Yeah. Dress up every now and again. Dress up. Yeah. Surprise them every now and again, too. Unless you're like Connie and you go through the PMS and you just eating everybody up like a bulldog every now and again, then that takes communication as well. Us women will go through menopause. We will have mood swings. There are going to be days that we just can't stand to see you. And then there's seconds, oh, you're the sweetest thing since sliced bread. Men go through their crap too. And I think we just need to communicate a little bit more and meet each other halfway. Bolaman. Cayman is not an independent island. Stop acting oblivious. Your destiny is in the hands of the UK. I don't know where that's coming from, but nobody actually we knew that. That came out yesterday. Even our constitution. We know that wasn't written by the Caymanian people. So tell us something we don't know. Thank you for your feedback, nevertheless. Oh, thank you, Denver, my love. Real Michelle. Covenant. Yeah, I gotcha. Convenience. Okay, gotcha. For me. Dean, I need to come check these glasses. Real Michelle. Tongue in cheek, Miss Sabrina. Property settlements keeps lawyers in work. Keeps the wheels. Oh, yes. The only one who benefits in divorces are lawyers when two people can't get their ish together. If you actually decide it's not working and we're going to end it, for God's sake, don't draw it out over something so simple. The only ones that are making money out of it are the attorneys. And that's why you have the conversations early and you try to hash it out before you go into, because you're paying for every phone call. You're paying for every email. You're paying for, I don't want to talk to him. You talk to my lawyer. Every communication is a bill. So the quicker you get your ish together and you realize it's not going to work and we're going to end it, just sort it out and go. This is the plan of action. This is what we're going to do. Let's get it up. Some people have actually filed their own grounds for divorce and without legal representation, and it has been very successful. Or they still needs a lawyer, and both parties go to the same lawyer and say, "Look, see, he's here, she's here. Let's end this. We good. We good. We're bosom buddies." But this is done. Kudos to those. But then you have those who just like cats and dogs. And these were the same people who were madly in love with each other, have kids, have businesses. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Tartarian, it's high time now that Cayman, that people must stop running from country to country. Everywhere is the same these days. It's the same struggle in every country. Tartarian, you're right. And this is why some of our own, for example, are going to the UK and coming back, and they're actually angry. I was speaking to a friend earlier on today, and it's the same topic that came back up. It's the same topic that came back up. And I've noticed some of my own Caymanians who have tried to make a better life in, let's say, the United Kingdom, and they come back home, and they're coming back home in anger. They're enraged. They're angry because whatever reason, wherever they went, just not picking on the UK, but wherever they went, it didn't work out, and they come back home. And it's like they're angry with the world. But yeah, the struggle is the same in every country. And just picking up, some of them didn't have anything here before they left, and they come back home in a wassa position. So yeah, I can understand. And things sometimes here have changed. We seeing Caymanians are struggling trying to get jobs, but we want our Caymanians to come back. Remember, now we're already in a 20-something%. So for all of those who are not making it wherever they are, maybe you may want to consider coming back home if you're able, and get back into the work field, because it's how much Caymanians do we have living abroad for whatever reason? I mean, if you've set up where you are and you got life made because the cost of living here is through the roof, maybe your retirement can give you a better quality of life wherever you're at. I'm talking about those who are failing wherever they are and need to come back home in a pauper in another man country. Those are the ones that I'm appealing to. Don't come back with the attitude. Come back, humble yourself. We're all human beings. We make mistakes. But at the end of the day, it was your decision to leave. Don't be angry because we fought it out. We're surviving. We're making our way. I can understand that. But yeah, we were talking about that today, earlier on, a friend and I, and it's pretty sad. But, we need to encourage our Caymanians to come back home, and we need to create that environment, especially our professionals in the medical field and in other areas, and put them into positions so that we can build our Caymanian numbers. Dean, so the spouse can work on a work permit? What are you talking about, Dean? I don't know what part of the conversation. So the spouse can work on a work permit. I'm trying to think back where that question would have come in, Dean. Jim, and you put your marriage first after God. And you put your marriage first after God. Thank you for that, Jimbo. That's right. Connie says, trust and communication and transparency and accountability make a healthy relationship. Yeah, that's true. That is true. If there's no trust, forget it. Once that trust is broken, it's hard to be built back. And you might as well call it. And some women, when they switch off like a switch. You can't, don't care how you try. It ain't gonna come back. Once that's done, it's D-U-N, done. Not even D-O-N-E, it's D-U-N. You can add an ED onto that. It's just how some people are. And once that's done, it's done. Connie, if I have to search, I may as well leave. Oh, that's the phone and the cars. Yeah. I just said what doesn't come out into the wash will come out into the rinse, and something. Oh, yeah. Someday it'll all come to light. Trust me. Okay. Thank you for that. Dean, what is this? When they together, living life. So the spouse can work on a work permit when they together, living life. But we were talking about persons married to Caymanians. I know that under this recommendation as well, it also states that if you're married to a Caymanian and the application is filed, that you continue to work, which that is in play right now, under the same terms and conditions of whatever working facility you actually had until it reached its end. That provision is in there. This particular piece of legislation as well. actually just clears that up because it was silent before. And even though you couldn't change employers, the same still stands until an official application uh, has been decided upon on. So yeah, everyone should do a prenup because that don't work here though, Ria Michelle, because that's when you still trust each other. When trust is eroded, everyone should do a prenup because that's when you should still trust each other. When trust is eroded, property settlements become unnecessarily expensive. It's hard to reach an agreement when you don't trust. Yeah, it's quite right. And there's another flip side to that, Michelle. There are some persons, I've heard that there's a case right now where there's someone, a Caymanian female, got married to an expatriate, retired, had their own home. She had her own home, and now the expatriate husband, it's not working, less than I think 4 or 5 years. And he is wanting 50% of a home that he never invested in. And that's the unfortunate case that they are finding themselves in. And I understand now that the case is quite sad because that Caymanian person now is in no peace in their home. And one is staking their ground that they are going to get 50% out of a property that they never invested in or never were a part of building. Hmm. So this is under civil partnership. Yeah, well, working together, be it a marriage, Dean. Yeah, living life. Oh, they're together living life. But yeah, so these are some of the unfortunate cases, which again, some will just come in, they find some vulnerable females and they literally take advantage of you. And then you can feel so isolated. And I'm quite sure there are a number of these cases out there and they feel trapped. There are no peace in their home. They know that it's not genuine love. They feel like they've been tricked. But now what it's going to cost a lawyer to fight that. And when you look at the laws, maybe the poor lady may actually win, but then there's fear for her life. Because one tries to intimidate, one plays mind games with a machete and all this sort of stuff. It was just a scenario that was given to me, a picture, a story that was told to me. And these are some of the conditions some of our very own Caymanians are living in. I didn't ask the name. And of course, I would never divulge certain things. But it's because of some of the conversations that we were having here based on relationships that that story presented itself. And they now have to seek serious legal counsel or seek legal representation now to retain their own investment because they felt that they were jibbed. And every night now, unless there's a restraining order of some sort, and there are quite of processes that would have to go through, but they got to live through that in their own home. So there are some real cases that are out there where people are taking advantage of each other, and we just need to be strong and hope that, you know, they can navigate their way out of there, get proper protection and legal representation to get themselves out. But some of these stories are heartbreaking that is happening, and they're staying on for whatever reasons, for citizenship, just ability, like what what's his name is saying? Dean is saying, just to be able to live and work, live in life. And somebody is actually being put through hell, mental abuse. And yeah, but I'm hoping that some resolution can be found and that, you know, at the end of the day, this individual is not intimidated by this bully and that they can get the justice that they rightfully deserve. Denver, don't leave the green grass at home for thinking it's greener on the other side. You're quite right. Quite right, Denver. It is quite interesting where we're headed, to be honest, as a society. But, you know, I'm liking where the conversation went, to be honest with you. And I'm hoping that I was able, through this mechanism, to show you the part of Caymanian status. We got down to 11. But at the end of the day, clause 11 is what we were going to go on to, but time doesn't permit. And I am hoping that you're appreciating the information that is being shared. I'm hoping that I'm articulating and I'm answering your questions as best that I can. It's hard to answer some of your direct questions without full context. It's not that I can't read. There's just a lot going on and I'm hoping that I sometimes don't misunderstand what you're asking. But again, I try to answer all of your questions. You can see it. I try not to miss any. And I'm hoping that you're understanding exactly what we are doing here. But I cannot repeat this enough. The benefits of this, I see you, Rhea Michelle. The benefits of this, or the success of this immigration reform, will hinge on enforcement. Let me repeat that. The success of this immigration reform, the bedrock of this, its effectiveness will be on the hands and shoulders of our enforcement officers. Equally so, the Caymanians. Every single Caymanian who's entering certain relationships, certain unions without being on the wrong foot. And at the end of the day, I feel that we can do this, beat this up all we want. Every single citizen of the Cayman Islands with status, indigenous, generational, whatever you call yourself, Caymanian, okay? For the context of what I'm trying to say, every Caymanian has a part to play, like every civil servant who are charged with the responsibility of upholding and enforcing these laws, even our marriage officers. But if the relevant mechanisms are not in place, like the law, so that we're tightening them up, then it's open season. Now they're trying to tighten the laws up to answer the call of our people, even though we haven't seen the regulations. It is a step in the right direction, but it's going to take every one of us, okay? Sadly, the story you speak of is commonplace, non-financial contribution counts. Did he mow the lawn, look after the children, or clean the house? These are equitable contributions, he may likely argue. I don't know and all of those fine details, but it's good to know. It's good to know. I just think at the end of the day, a lot of these persons have to just have a real talk with themselves. And if you find out that you're getting into something that is not really what it should be, try to get out as quickly as possible. But in that scenario, Real Michelle, I don't think that one could have been avoided, because you think you're marrying Prince Charming and then they end up being the devil. And that's just pretty sad. And then you spend a lot of time just trying to defend your own property. Yes. I'm happy you're enjoying it, Damien. But yeah, there we go. As Real Michelle said, we'll continue with clause 11 tomorrow. Well, tomorrow is Thursday. Yeah, I think we can wrap this up before next week, and just give it. So thank you for putting up with me, to be honest. Thank you for actually keeping my company. I notice immigration every time gets a lot of traction. And I do go back, which is why I missed that question yesterday and I answered it today. I do go back and I try to look at all of the questions and stuff in case there was anything that I missed. But, as we continue here in this space, Jimbo, you are more than welcome, my sweet. And you and everybody else, I just want to thank you all. You guys are the greatest fans ever. And thank you for continuing to support me. Thank you for continuing to be. I'm noticing you guys are opening up so much more now. And thank you for trusting me. You're sharing stories with me that normally, here, it's okay if you hide behind a little name. Just bring it out here. That's what this space is about. And I will always be honest with you. If there's something I can't address, I will definitely make you know. But time does not permit for me to go on anymore. because I don't know what's coming up next, but usually there's something immediately after me. It has been a pleasure bringing you another episode of Sabrina Speaks. Let's continue this and just finish this whole thing up with immigration tomorrow. So tell your friends, please look for Sabrina Turner on Facebook, community activist. Follow me. Yeah, so that you don't miss an episode. Love you lots. Have a fabulous Wednesday evening. God bless. Until tomorrow.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.